Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey series. And let's get started. One story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
April 28th, Chicago, Stand Nation, Power Week. I'll be there and show you. Yeah, that's it, baby. Hey guys, my name is Wally Green from New York City. We have an amazing event at the Stan Mansion in Chicago. It is called The Power of We, run by my man, my boy, Mr. Lauren Harris. You guys better be there, because I will too, and I hope to see you guys soon. Peace!
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you? Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, a little hoarse, but still your host, not horse, your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. I'm sounding like Louise Jefferson again. George, listen,
Happy belated Easter to each and every one of you. How was your weekend? Did you get together with your family, your friends? What'd you do? Put something you remember most. What do you appreciate most from this past Easter Sunday and weekend? Some people spent the whole weekend celebrating. It was nice to just see people being able to get back together, actually do things together. Because why? I tell you every day, Monday through Friday, when we come together here, what I love most and first about it, I guess that would be foremost. Foremost, that's right, is that it fulfills one of the greatest promises. The one that says that where two or more of us with the same mindset, heart set, soul set come together, you know what happens because you're here all the time. Something wonderful happens, correct? No different today. I am so excited to be back. It's been an exciting month so far. Tax day. I don't mean to be the bearer, but you guys know it's due. I got an extension. What about you? With an event, I should have thought about that. I didn't factor that in when I started building out the Power Weed Symposium. Thank you, Jed Clampett. You're right. What in tarnation happened to the weekend? I don't know. We got a lot done around here, though. Getting ready. You know, everybody's coming to town starting next week. Daniel Echeverria, host of Weekly Dose of Dano, and also one of the main stage MCs at the Powerful We Symposium. Next Thursday, a week from this coming Thursday, at the Stan Mansion in downtown Chicago. It's our third one. You guys will remember after our second one in Atlanta, we were summoned to New York to receive our award from the United Nations, the Jim Award. Global Empowerment Movement. So we're so honored, we're so blessed, and we're doing it again, making history, celebrating nearly 300 young, what I refer to as youth leaders, ambassadors, if you will, some of the brightest, some of the best, from some of the hardest hit neighborhoods here in Chicago. These are all scholars, they're all headed to something great, and we just want to give them a full day of attention where we can sit as adults, as friends, as supporters, as allies, and listen to them. That's what the power of we is, and we can't do it alone, or I would have called it the power of me, and I didn't. So that means head over. Sharon McQueen, I know you're here. Drop the link in for us, will you? Where you can get over. Good news, last week we announced that you don't have to. If you can't make it to Chicago, we get it. Times are tough. There's a lot going on in our world. So we've tried to make it easier for you to have this experience, which I refer to as an anointed experience. That is, you can now watch from the comfort of your own home. The $27 pay-per-view ticket is now available. Head over to powerofwesymposium.com. Click the blue button up in the right-hand corner that says purchase tickets. It's pretty clear. And grab yours today. There will be an itinerary posted either today or tomorrow on the Power of We Symposium page, as well as the Power of We Symposium Facebook page, where you'll be able to see everything in real time, how it's going to go down from the very beginning. Now, you would say, oh, the pay-per-view starts at 9 a.m. Correct, when the curtain goes up. There is an 8 a.m. red carpet ceremony. You'll get to see all of that. And the night before, where we get the mansion ready for the kids, with all the volunteers and all the people that are presenting, all the moving parts, if you will. We do this every time the night before, and it's a beautiful time of fellowship. And we get our heads right. We put everything in one lane because it's all about those kids the next day. And so you'll be able to watch that as well during the lunch break. So you'll see the red carpet ceremony as well as the night before activities. So get over $27. We're also splitting that $27 with the Soul Children Choir. You know, they're headlining our event. They're a Grammy Award-winning choir. Got the Grammy with a collaboration with the group Three Doors Down. And so they have a song out, Singing for Ukraine. Their goal is to raise $1 million to help the orphans in Ukraine, because, you know, the war will be over, hopefully soon. But when that day does come, there will still be many children who will need to be taken care of. So I love that kids take care of kids. So let's take care of the kids that take care of the kids. How's that? All right. So great show for you today. You know, once a year I have a week, which is Celebrity Week. Haven't had it yet for 2022, but it feels like it's this week. Why? Because of today's guest. I almost feel like I should have a dunce cap on in his presence. I was looking at his resume and watching some of his work, and wow, he reminds me, remember Alan A. Allen, the world's first aquanaut? Good friend of mine now, 83 years old. And when he was here, I've had him here several times. He's just one of those guys you can just sit there and go, wow, wow, your work will be here forever. Someone will be learning and healing through your work forever. That's what I hope to do someday. What about you, right? Find your purpose, live your purpose. So today we have Dr. George Lindenfeld here. And my goodness, 1971, University of Oregon Medical School, resident in medical psychology. There's one. Oh, wait a minute. Utah State University, Doctor of Philosophy, Child and Developmental Psychology, 1971. Oh, the City College of New York, Manhattan. Ooh, I love Manhattan. Master of Science, School Psychology. And also State University of New York, Bachelor of Science Education. Okay, so we already know what the walls in his office looks like, right? So anyway, yep, ring the bell on that too. That by the way, is the bell of purpose. It's not some little gimmick or show prop. It's an opportunity, and it's also a reminder. When you hear the bell of purpose, that bell rings, and to remind us that the truth has a ring as well. So sometimes with all the busy things we're doing nowadays, we get sidetracked, shiny object syndrome. And that bell is just, if you're doing other things, listen up, something is important. Like today, what I love about Dr. Lindenfeld is he is a specialist, one of the foremost authorities on PTSD, specifically dealing with veterans and veteran-related PTSD. And also this subject, cutting. And young people, my event, our event, because it's not mine, it's ours, The Power of We. A couple years ago, in the very first one, we had a girl that spoke that had dealt with cutting. And a lot of us know that it's hard pressed to not hear or know someone who has been touched by that and how and why it happens. So we're going to talk about that today. Right now, if you know someone, perhaps yourself, someone you love, someone you care about, someone you may not care about too much right now, but you care that they get better. Well, now's the time to share out this broadcast right now, because there is something you're going to hear in here today. Have you ever heard of PBM? No, and it's not peanut butter and mayonnaise. I already know what you're thinking. No, it is photobiomodulation. And you're going to hear a little bit about it. I'm going to show you a clip. But before we get Dr. Lindenfeld in here, I thought we'd warm up the room just a bit as we all know about PTSD. We think we do, but specifically when it pertains to military members, a little bit different. But here's a little something I found about a veteran and how he copes with PTSD. His name is Brandon. Of course, I took that as a sign. You guys remember last week I lost one of my mentees, young Brandon Michael Smith, who I'd been working with for a number of years, and they took him off of life support last week. I'll be going to his service on this coming Saturday, and we now have implemented an award for other people that have made it out of something that not everyone makes it out of. And depression is the welcome mat to a lot of things that don't need to be. And that's one of the reasons, that's the main reason actually, why I'm so excited that Dr. Lindenfeld is here, because as he was telling me when I was telling about my military sexual trauma, he goes, that's curable. So it doesn't have to be. So you guys, here we go. Take a look at this, and then we'll get started with Dr. Lindenfeld. Get him right in here.
Holy, there's a group of people coming to kill all of us, right? First time I got woken up by was frightening. Brought back my rifle, started scoping in on people, Kevlar blood all over the place. I got discharged for having PTSD. A lot of anger. The kind of anger where somebody does something stupid on the freeway, you want to chase them down. It's all because of everything I went through. Yeah, I was a really just happy kid. I had a goal to be like that again. And that's when I started to actually want to go to therapy to try to get that back.
When we kind of ignite the memory, we are not in those memories. We are just kind of looking at them from a distance. As always, you're in control of this. The number of veterans that are needing help and the amount of people that are available to take care of them has just not been sufficient. What comes up for you when you think of that memory?
Helplessness. There was nothing anyone could do to help anybody. It's like the feeling of driving through a freaking dust storm.
When we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, essentially what's happening in our body is a fight, flight, freeze response. Folks that are experiencing PTSD are constantly in that level of survival.
Carnage comes into mind. Straight up anger. Had people in my sights before. We were just on an edge.
Hold on. We want to have a foot in the present at all times. What we don't want folks to do when we're talking about traumatic memory is to get consumed by those memories and feel like they're reliving them. Doing great. We want them in the present. And that's essential to doing this work. And we use tactile therapy in somebody's hands as a way of keeping them present.
If people live many years with untreated PTSD, they're more likely to develop heart disease, stroke. So it's a very risky business to not seek treatment for PTSD in terms of long-term health consequences.
Having PTSD, it's not just a symptom, it's all encompassing, and it comes at you from every corner all the time. So you have to build the skills to hold things back until you can find a way to turn them around and push them the other direction.
We are victims of our traumatic experience. Nobody chooses it. Even if choices led us there, nobody chooses to be traumatized. Deep breath. Good job. You know, you started with that word helpless and you moved into control. Just notice that.
That's a good evolution.
I'm seeing him believe that he's capable, believing that he can do it. His life has shifted. He has gotten married.
It means so much to not have the person you love think they're a failure because of something that they can't control.
I don't think I would have been able to handle anything without seeing Ryan and going to Sharp. Yeah, it definitely saved my life.
Seeing Brandon really start living and being able to feel like he can leave therapy, how can you not smile about that?
It's amazing what this has done for him.
I'll say, knowing that you can beat PTSD, it's powerful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you don't hear it phrased like that too often. A lot of people talk about PTSD, but you don't really hear that much about ways to eradicate it, ways to eliminate it. Well, we're going to change that hopefully today. So put your hearts on the screen as we welcome a first timer, but more importantly, put your hearts into this conversation. We need to know how you feel. Notice there, I didn't say, I want to hear how you feel. We need to hear how you feel. That's why we have people like Dr. Lindenfeld in the world, so that we can always take great to greater, bright to brighter, and most importantly, strong to stronger. So put your hearts on it. Here he comes, Dr. George Lindenfeld. Well, good morning, Dr. Lindenfeld. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me on your show.
Of course. I'm honored. I looked for something. I tried to make a paper cone dunce hat to wear because I feel like I'm like the village idiot here. I'm looking at this 22-page, man, you've just done so much. You know what you're talking about, and you've written about it and been published many times over. Here are just a couple, you guys, of some of the publications, but I love the titles. PTSD, Brain on Fire. Can relate. Resetting the Fear Switch in PTSD. Auditory Stimulation Therapy for PTSD. And another one, Remediation of PTSD in a Combat Veteran, a case study. Now, there we go. So, Dr. Lindenfeld, I'm going to just shut up for a minute, let you take the screen, and just say hello to everybody. Tell them where you're at in the world and what made you pursue this and know that you could do something to change how we deal with this rampant epidemic known as PTSD. All you.
Well, let's start with the last question first. And again, thank you for having me. When I was a little one, I would go to my grandfather, who tried to avoid the Hungarian draft by coming to the U.S. I'd ask him about his family, and his face would turn ashen white. He kind of faded out, strange look on his face, and he'd walk away from me. I didn't realize at the time, not too many people did, that was PTSD going on. His entire family had been slaughtered in the Holocaust. He couldn't talk about it. He couldn't deal with it. That stuck with me. I joined the Navy Seabees. I'm a veteran also. Can do. And after swinging a pick for 2 years, I decided in choral, but pretty hard stuff, that I needed to get an education. Little did I understand that that would lead me toward becoming a psychologist, but I think the factors were there from the point of my grandfather on to understand what this was, what trauma does to human beings. And I've come up with the perspective that trauma alters the wiring in our brain. It's called the neural network, and it puts it in this chronic fight, flight, freeze mode, particularly when we're triggered by something through memory. So PTSD is locked in the long-term memory banks in our brain. Anything that triggers it, there we are again. Now, about 15 years ago, I started exploring the use of sound, binaural sound, slightly different in each ear, to unlock that memory vault and magically drop out that toxic trauma stuff. And you know what? It seems to do the job.
Seriously?
Yes, sir. It sure does.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it while you were talking. How many of you that deal with PTSD, you know who you are, whether anyone, if you've told people or not, you know, because you've heard enough about it. But while Dr. Lindenfeld was talking, I felt this sense of, oh, I hope he has something. Oh, I hope he has something. I was shocked when I felt it, you know, and I'll tell you why, because I wrote down, and I in the car coming from the health club this morning, I was like, I'm going to ask him about this thing. When you said unlock the vault right there, I'm going to tell you what happened inside my world. I instantly went to a trigger, which is spearmint. Now, this wasn't military sexual. This was when I was in the foster system. The very first night was my very first abuse. And the assailant, the perpetrator, I look for the right word, none of those fit, chewed spearmint gum. And, you know, up until like maybe 5 years ago, my husband and I would be in the car headed to the lake house, and we stuck in traffic, you know, in Michigan City, stuck in traffic, couldn't move. And suddenly the entire car would fill with the smell of spearmint, just out of nowhere. And, you know, I can't look at the Double Mint, Wrigley's, any of those families of gum in the store line, because it reminds me of anything, spearmint candy, anything like that. And I'm like, how can that be? Because all I remember is just focusing on the evilness in the mouth, but you could, you know, the spit coming out, but that smell of spearmint. So when you say the vault, does that mean the vaults of anybody, whether it was the sound of breaking glass or whatever that trigger may be? Because I think it's interesting, because mine is smell, but you can help me work on that through sound. How is that so interconnected?
Well, let me back up a little bit and talk about something called the ACE inventory. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's the Adverse Childhood Experience inventory. It consists of about 10 items that speak to different abuse of children, emotionally, physically, sexually. And you know what? Lots of folks with PTSD seem to score high on that ACE inventory, suggesting that a lot of this emanates and is preset up from childhood experience. I didn't know that before, but it's becoming more and more solid in my mind that this sets one up for later potential negative effects from trauma. Now, the opposite of trauma, I want to use the word resilience.
Okay.
Being able to cope, not being stuck in triggers. So to go back now to answer your question, let's say we have a sensory experience, such as your spearmint, that gets triggered while you're in the car. Makes absolute sense to me. It's part of a sensory memory, a kinesthetic memory, an auditory memory. In your case, we have smell. Now, I've developed this treatment called reset therapy. It's based on our understanding from the year 2000 on that memories are changed each time they're triggered, and then they go back and they get restored. Think about a witness whose story changes over time. Yeah? So these memories change. It means if we understand what we're doing, we can change them too. Now, there's a frequency in the brain, I call it a trauma frequency, that's different in each individual. When I tune into that trauma frequency and establish that and slightly offset it to create that binaural effect, the emotional junk drops out. Just amazing.
Wow. You know, that's really encouraging news. As I listen, and I'm just responding organically because it's a real thing in my world. So, and I'm telling you why I'm responding organically, Dr. Lindenfeld, because, you know, even though, you know how there are people that are functioning alcoholics, I feel like I'm a functioning PTSD survivor, or I don't even what to call it. I don't even know. But I just hate this feeling of always being stalked. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like I'm being stalked because it's almost like a tick. You don't know when it's going to just jump, and it's a horrible thing. No matter how happy you become, you still wonder if it's around that corner up there. As much as you fight to not look over your shoulder like something's following you, you can just feel it. So let's talk about PBM. And I have the clip. Do you want me to show it before or after or during?
Go ahead and show it. Before you do, though, I call folks like you survivors. You're surviving that trauma. You're doing your best to cope with it. And unfortunately, this is my belief, talk therapy really doesn't do much for it. So part of what my goal was to be able to create a non-verbal intervention. So I want my person that wants to be free of this to get fully into it so I can find out that frequency.
Yeah.
And yet so many of my colleagues want people to avoid getting into it.
Why is that?
Don't know. I've been trying for 15 years now to bring about this awareness, and the resistance is unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Well, could it possibly be? I don't know. But I mean, it's just like, when we started finding out there were natural supplements instead of taking a prescription. You know what I mean? There's a reason. There's a reason people don't want people to know about something that could change the way we think about life. And
I think we become invested in our belief system.
Yeah.
And kind of lock it in.
I agree. Well, let's take a look at PBM, photobiomodulation. And here's Dr. Lindenfeld explaining.
This is an infrared light that goes on the skull, reaching brain cells and activating them. This is an intranasal light that goes up the nose, delivering light to the underside of the brain. Now, if you think back evolutionary wise, think about plants. Plants develop chlorophyll that are used for energy to activate that plant so that it stays alive. If indeed we are evolutionary creatures, might it be that we have the same kind of cell that we just haven't been aware of? Indeed, science has found that our cells have an energy factory called mitochondrion that respond to light, much in the way that the plant cell does. If we can get light through the skull, we can activate and enhance energy in those cells, which will then intercommunicate with each other in a much more rapid fashion. It's as though they wake up. And in waking up, they're looking out there. Hey, who's around? Let's chat. And in that sense, the neuronal material begins to lay out again a network that has become activated. So one might ask, how did I get into this, given that my field has been the use of sound, specifically binaural sound, to remediate post-traumatic stress disorder and other forms of trauma. It's known as PTSD, and we now also have another one that's called secondary traumatic stress that's picked up by someone that's close to a person that has PTSD. However, in my work with combat veterans in particular that have returned from Iraq and Afghanistan, they come back with signature wounds, both PTSD and traumatic brain injury. In effect, through the use of a treatment that I've called reset therapy, we've been able to reset brain circuitry through sound and restore the individual back to the prior trauma level. So they are functioning well emotionally. However, if they have TBI, they continue to have cognitive problems, memory, short-term, long-term. They still need a caretaker in many cases. So the loaf is half-baked, as I thought in my mind. What else could there be out there to be able to restore functioning in traumatic brain injury as well? And indeed, light is proving to be the answer. I wrote a book called Comorbid Conditions and asked a well-known colleague, Dr. Michael Hamblin, if he would write the introduction. And indeed, he did. In turn, about a year later, Michael asked me to write a chapter in his book. I called it Signature Wounds. In this, we remediated a combat veteran fully from his PTSD. However, as I noted, he continued to have memory and other types of cognitive problems. I lent him an infrared light for 3 months. We did brain mapping. In other words, we had an EEG cap on his brain that measured different areas. And we did a pre and a post. And wow, his functioning improved 66% by using the light twice a day. This was just an intranasal unit, this. He didn't need a caretaker. He was able to remember things. And in fact, he was able to take leadership in his community.
Wow.
Just amazing. Now, this also has amazingly, and this gives me goosebumps when I tell you this has application with Alzheimer's, with Parkinson's, with other neuronal conditions.
Well, there it is.
No medication to date has been capable of reversing Alzheimer's, conditions like that. Trials are now going on with the cap that I'm wearing and similar interventions, and we are seeing a reversal of chronic Alzheimer's where the person is becoming more functional. Just amazing. We're looking forward to a new future, both with light and with sound. This is where we were created, I believe, and this is where we will be able to address a lot of the conditions that plague us.
Wow. Everything you said sounded like the truth. And well, let me just ask you, when you got into the part about it changing things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, well, no wonder there's resistance. Do you know how much pharmaceutical money would be lost if light fixed a lot of that, or reversed it rather? It has to be connected, wouldn't you say, Dr. Lindenfeld?
I don't like to think that there are people that evil that would stop progress. I recall one veteran I treated that was on 13 different medications. 13. And with one or two treatments, he didn't need any of them.
Didn't need any of them.
No, sir.
Oh,
So while we're at it,
yeah.
guess what other population is more and more reminding me of combat veterans?
Great
What comes to mind?
I won't answer. Okay, really? Okay, wait a minute. We didn't talk about this already, did we?
No, I'm
So
giving
it's
you a
not the
challenge
other thing.
here.
So it's not the okay. Say it again. Ask the question again. I'm listening for. I have ADHD.
What currently troublesome population is showing similarities to combat veterans, both with PTSD and with impact to their memory, TBIs, things like that?
Would it be children of abuse?
No, sir. It's the chronic homeless. They've never left the jungle. They're still in it.
Homeless.
Chronic homeless in
Chronic homeless.
particular.
So what? Okay, fix that one for us. So when you say chronic homeless, that means a person back and forth, or just an extended period of time with no permanent place.
Well, there's criteria to meet that label. I won't go into detail,
Okay.
but by and large, they're living in situations that someone shouldn't live in.
Right.
And they figure it's at least for a year in total.
Well, many of
And
us here.
to try to put these people back into a residential setting, they don't cope well.
Right. And a lot of, because I was homeless, and a lot of us here were, believe it or not, Misfit Nation in the house. If you know someone, or if you've ever been in that position of the homelessness thing and you're okay to talk about it, say, I relate. Or even if you just know someone, say, I relate in the comments. When we come back, we're going to take a 1-minute break. And when we come back, I want to get into a little bit more about the PBM, but also the work you're doing with kids and that the epidemic of cutting. And maybe you can shed some light, no pun intended, on what that is really about. Because, a lot of people say and I'm married to a therapist, and they say, it's to cover up another pain. But I have a feeling you've got something about this that we may not have heard yet. We're going to find out what that is and more when we return. Make sure you share this out. Be the blessing that you want to receive. Here we go. We'll be back in 60 seconds with Dr. George Lindenfeld. Don't go away.
The power of we was a way of inclusion, a way of inviting anyone who needed or wanted a place to belong.
It was just very clear to me that this was something that would really benefit the young folks right here.
And to be able to give them a different perspective that I know where they come from. I know what they're experiencing because I was there too. And letting them know that there's different actions that they can take that'll lead to a different destiny.
We really needed to hear that. In order to change our community, we needed to hear that.
And they are inspired to invest in making it happen. That's powerful.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
Okay, welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. Dr. George Lindenfeld is in the house, and we're talking about PTSD, this PBM, photobiomodulation work you've done, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we're going to get into this cutting thing, but I wanted to start this segment by asking you, do you feel, Dr. Lindenfeld, do people, even like me, look at PTSD like a person who, let's say, needs a miracle ear or needs glasses, and you think you're seeing okay, you think you're hearing okay until you put that hearing aid in, or until you put on the glasses, you go, oh my goodness. I mean, I know I have night driving glasses, and when I put them on, it's so clear. When I take them off, everything looks blurry for a while till I get used to looking through the blurriness, and it becomes natural. Talk about how that is for PTSD. Are there people walking around with it and don't even have a clue that is a connector for a lot of other issues in their life?
Absolutely. If we don't, my opinion, mind you, if we don't get it out of this electrical grid system in our brain, the network, we've got a higher chance of developing dementia later in life, as well as other ills. It messes up brain functioning. It causes neuroinflammation. It's not a good thing.
You know what I find really fascinating about this work of yours is that I, as the patient, I don't have to point to something. That's the thing. Always they're like, well, tell me what you're, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, or it's not here right now. So it's hard for me to say, here it is. You know what I mean? But with this light thing, all I have to do is be there, right? And does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Now,
when I'm talking to somebody about this stuff, I can only talk about what I understand or what I have a hunch of about. But with this light thing, I don't have to I don't have to give it a face, do I?
No, not really. But let me clarify one thing, please.
Okay.
You are focusing on light. My primary focus for relieving PTSD is sound.
Is sound.
Okay. The light is for enhancement of cognitive memory, things like that.
Okay, good. Because I
to relieve trauma, for me, the sound is the primary tool.
So how do you know, because you mentioned earlier, thank you for putting that back on track, that like it's different in each one. How do you know what to program it to be? How do you know? How do you find that out?
Remember that old ad? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Mikey likes it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mikey.
Yeah. Mikey has his brothers have him test out a cereal to see if they are going to try it. I equate Mikey to the subconscious mind, and I'm going to use the subconscious mind to best identify the specific frequencies in which that trauma is located. So I'm looking at facial expression. I'm looking at breathing. You know, most of the folks with PTSD or chest breathers, they don't use their abdomen. They're not getting enough oxygen up to their brain.
Oh.
And do you know, I've never run into a physician that has taught their patient that.
Nope, I've never heard
And
that.
it just blows me away that people don't know how to breathe properly. If you got a pet, put your hand on its abdomen and sense the abdomen lifting and dropping. That's the way our Creator designed us to breathe. And we don't do it.
Why don't we?
We copy our anxious mother.
Oh.
She chest breathes, and that's what we pick up.
Oh.
But
wow.
Guess what?
What?
We can learn it properly. A
Well,
little bit of practice.
Right. I remember it with my coaching in music when I was, because, shameless plug. Oh, wait, there it goes. Yeah. And I've been singing for a lot of years. And I remember that was the first thing. Pull up on the piano. She had me lift on the piano. So I would use my diaphragm. And it made everything easier.
But belly breathing.
But when we go to sleep, we automatically go to diaphragm breathing, correct?
Not necessarily.
See, why do they? I remember them telling us that.
It takes my patients about a month to start to switch over if they do it diligently, like 5 minutes twice a day.
So can you give us a little input on how you do that?
Sure.
What do you do for those 5 minutes? Give us something here.
You put one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. Let's see if I can do this. And watch when I inhale. My abdomen will lift my hand. And notice I made my mouth like a straw. Watch this. When I exhale, look how long I can do it for.
I know. I was saying,
and it's comfortable. It's comfortable. Now that's where we're designed to speak. That's where our Creator expected us to have sound coming out. But New Yorkers talk like this and they never stop. Maybe they do it in Chicago too, and they keep going on and on and on and on. And then they wonder why they're going to have a panic attack. Mikey in their brain is saying, "You're killing me. Give me oxygen."
Give me oxygen. It reminds me of a song from the 80s. Remember that? Love is like oxygen. Just a side note. So, Dr. Lindenfeld, take us into your work with kids or cutters, because not all cutters are kids, but the primary majority are. Help? Do you got something that people? What's the biggest misconception you think general public has about cutting?
They don't think it happens very often. In 2015, an American psychological measure found 17% of adolescents were doing it. Now it's probably well over 20. Let me read you something if I can take a minute.
Go right ahead.
I had this popsicle stick and I carved it into a sharp point and scratched myself. Joan, a high school student in New York, said recently. I'm not even sure where the idea came from. I just knew it was something people did. I remember crying a lot and thinking, why did I just do that? I was kind of scared of myself. She felt relief as the swarm of distress dissolved and she began to cut herself regularly. At first with a knife, then a razor blade, cutting her wrists, forearms, and eventually much of her body. I would do it for 5 to 15 minutes, and afterwards I didn't have that terrible feeling. I could go on with my day. That's a sample. These kids experience numbness in most of their life. They come from families where the parents are in rather constant conflict with each other, fighting, and the child is negated like they don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
They become numb. They don't have a way to cope with the stress that builds up within them.
Right. Dr. Lindenfeld, what are we missing in our homes where a kid, because we know they hide it. They hide it. Now, well, do they? Are there some who don't care and they show it? I mean, what are the warning signs? How would a parent or guardian, a friend or ally know that a kid could be cutting if you can't see the proof?
Well, they tend to hide it, so they're going to wear long garments so you don't see it. And they're going to do it in areas that aren't obvious. So one of my patients, mom saw a cut initially, and the young lady said, well, a cat scratched me. So they come up with excuses. Again, they use it for stress relief. They don't know how to cope. And what I find with particularly a case study patient I'm working with is that the sound, she says, is serving me as a protective bubble. She recorded the sound on her iPhone. And by the way, I'm trying to create an iPhone app. I call it Resolve It.
Okay.
So that could be available to many, many people at a reasonable fee. But she uses that, just recorded, and it is now serving as an alternative for her to cut. That's very exciting. It gives me goosebumps. I want to get the app in her hand. So
Yeah.
I'm field testing it right now.
For you. So are there adult cutters or are those just young cutters who grew into it? Does a person carry it in, or can a person start as a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old? Can somebody my age, 60, almost 60, take up cutting?
About 5% of adults are cutters or other forms of self-injury. Now, this is called non-suicidal self-injury.
Okay. So they're not intending to not live. They just want to dull some other pain.
Correct. However, some of them move into suicidal attempts.
I was going to say, it seems like it's got to be a welcome mat or a doggy door at best for some other things down the road. So which came first, doctor? The depression, the chicken, or the egg, the cutting? Or do you understand what I'm saying? Is a person necessarily depressed when they cut, or could it be just trauma? Because you don't have to be depressed to be dealing with trauma.
Let's talk about the role of social media.
Oh.
8% of third grade students were involved in self-injurious behavior.
Say that again.
Third grade students, 8% of them are self-injuring. Teenagers spend 3 to 5 hours daily on social media platforms. Those platforms serve as, there are groups of cutters on those social media platforms.
So are they picking it up from other kids? Like, here, try this. It works for me. Because they're talking to each other about their pains and how no one is listening. So they go, well, that's what I do.
Yeah. My case study tells me that TikTok served as a means for her to learn how to disassociate, to disconnect from her sensations, to get to that numbness point where her parents fighting no longer bothered her.
And so the parents are so committed to this War of the Roses. and
Yes.
you're totally missing the children. Now, let me ask you this. In your work, have you, let's say in families that have multiple children, have you seen any of this in more than just one of the kids? Is it possible for siblings to do this?
Yeah, my patient tells me her younger sister has done it too. Yes.
And so they compare notes.
Oh, yeah.
How long?
It's a whole different world that we have so little awareness of, and we have so few tools to be able to correct it or modify it.
So what happens to the person who beats this thing? Okay. But for the rest of their lives, they have to look down at arms or legs or wherever it is that they were cutting and see scars. Because I've seen kids with it. They pulled it up and showed it to me when I spoke at schools before COVID. And those scars are not going away. So what about the adult? How do they get past that part, that shaming and all that stuff, that residual bathtub ring, if you will, that will follow them and create questions for the rest of their lives in most cases?
I don't have the answer. I don't
Can a
have the
person
answer.
relapse?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
that's why I'm developing Resolve It, so they have available to them the means through their own volition of self-correcting.
Yes.
Rather than having to run to a therapist. Okay, here's my setting. Let me do this rather than cut myself.
Right. Because the therapist may not be able to see you for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is right now. I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I do. And I'm telling you what, that's the trend. That's where everything is going. Where people have the solution right there in their hands. So how can we help? How can those of us who are out here, how can we help people know more about the availability of this? Because I know I'm going to put it up on the screen. Well, down here, this is going, and then we'll put it up here as well. This is where you can find more from Dr. Lindenfeld. Tell us what people find when they go here.
Okay, there's an error on it. It's Reset Therapy, THERAPY. There's no S in it.
No S. Okay.
So you want to correct that.
Yeah. I copied it. Let me get it out of there.
Posted on there, and we keep putting announcements. I must have about 20, 25 blogs on different topics where we've used the sound and the light.
Okay, Sherry, can you put the correct one in the comment section so people, if they want to just click it and redirect, they'll be able to. So what kind of person, when people come to your website and they find, what if somebody wants to get in touch with you and say, you know what, how do I get some of this this sound therapy? How does it work if you don't live in your area? Because you're located where?
I'm in the Asheville area in North Carolina.
Oh, and look, I got my Charleston hat on.
Yeah. Guess what? Telehealth is making all the difference in the world.
Oh.
Particularly when an app comes out, telehealth is just as effective as face-to-face. Some people like it even better.
Even better.
They don't have to travel.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's see. Did that get in there? You guys somebody dropped that in there. Can you say, just take the S out, correct?
Yeah.
Just take that S out. So therapy.com. Yeah. Lindenfeld, is it R-E-S-E-T?
R-E-S-E-T. Take
so
the
no
D
D and no S.
Right.
Man, you were nervous backstage, huh? You're not used to TV, are you? That's all right. Hey, Dr. Lindenfeld, this is really, really interesting. I'm gonna just drop something off for you. I want you to think about it. But sometime this summer, I wonder if you and maybe another colleague or maybe a patient or two, I want you to think about coming back and doing a 90-minute television special about this, because I think people need to know, and I want to know more. How about you out there? Would you be interested in something like that? You, Dr. Lindenfeld.
This is my purpose in life.
Okay.
My passion.
So you'll do it. You'll do a 90-minute special.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. We're going to set that up and try to get it like sometime June, July, and August. We'll get Dr. Lindenfeld. I'll work with him. We'll put that together because I find the work absolutely amazing. And I feel encouraged that for all of us, and myself included, all of us, that there could be even more hope on the horizon. And I love what you're doing. And I thank you for doing it. Thank you so, so much. And you out there, listen, don't just let this go in one ear and out the other. Listen, sound, there it is. Told you, sound, the bell of truth. This work here with sound. Do you hear the sound of hope? Do you feel it, know it, embrace it, and use it? We can change this world. Be able to stand up. You want to take great to greater, bright to brighter, strong to stronger. Dr. George Lindenfeld, thank you so, so much for coming in today and planting these seeds here. And we look forward to more from you, and especially this special that we've committed to do.
You still don't have that?
No, I can't change it right now, but
Okay.
somebody put it into the comments.
Got
So they got the right one. So
Okay.
we thank you for that. And I'll go back and make sure it gets in there.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you to Mark Lukes who connected us. I'm so grateful he did. This is great work. I look forward to hearing more. Keep doing what you're doing. You're changing the world. And we're so proud to know you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to you guys out there, I'll see you, God willing, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central on the front porch, where again, we'll fulfill that promise where if just two of us is here, hey, that's enough. Come on back and let's have another illuminated conversation. I love every time I spend with you. Why? Because you make me better. Get out there today and be the change you'd like to see in the world. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Bye, Dr. Lindenfeld. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Oh, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.